You are listening to Latinx America, a podcast focused on highlighting catalysts who are using, leveraging, or creating technology to help our community achieve more. With your host, Adriana Flores Ragade. Rocio, it's such a pleasure to have you join us at Latinx America. I am excited to be here because you just hosted an amazing event, Latinas in Tech, and you were surrounded by so many Latinas that are in different positions in tech. And now you just hosted a breakfast where we had a lot of amazing women here sharing their stories. So let's hear your story. How did you get into tech? How did you end up at Prezi?
Well, Adriana, thank you for having me today. How did I start in tech and how did I end up at Prezi? So I've been in tech for probably 17 years now. I studied marketing in Mexico. Although I was born here, I moved to Mexico when I was little. And then I studied marketing. And my first job out of college, I was in advertising. And within advertising, my client was Mexicana de Aviación, who doesn't exist anymore, but I was in charge of all their international advertising. So when I moved to the U.S., I got married. My husband did his PhD in Boston. That's why we moved there. There was a tech company that wanted me to lead their international marketing efforts, which is what I was doing before. So that's how I entered into tech. It was in the gaming industry. It was a lot of fun. I was there for a lot of years. And then our company, my husband's company had to move to California, and that's why I came here. By then I was already reproducing, and I had my daughter, then I had my son, and then I was, doing the mama thing, giving myself some time to, enjoy my babies. And then Prezi happened. But the possibility of working in Silicon Valley was too attractive. And I said, I'm just going to try it for 6 months. And if I don't like it, I'll just come back and be a mom again, because that's what I wanted to do. And those 6 months became 6 years. And I'm now director of product marketing at Prezi. And I'm also, I don't have an official title, but we acquired Infogram, and I lead all their marketing team as well. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And then I do Latinas in Tech on the side.
So how does one get to be in your position? What type of skill set should someone listening follow or develop? And not just for what you're doing in your day-to-day job at Prezi, but also to be a leader in a nonprofit or in an organization such as Latinas in Tech. So what should someone be thinking about in terms of developing a certain skill set?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to actually answer that question from what I've gathered listening to all the role models that have spoken at our Latinas in Tech event. And I've noticed that all of them are resilient. They really don't take a no for an answer when they know what they want. When they know that something is wrong or doesn't make sense, they really push to make things the right way. There's people that say, you know what, I want a 1-year maternity leave. You don't like it, I quit. And then they say, please come back, we'll promote you. I've seen those stories. And not that it works every time, but the answer will always be no if you don't ask. So that's what all these women have in common. They ask for their raises, they ask for opportunity, they partner, they network, they mentor and are mentees. And that's the commonality I see in all these leaders. They don't give up easily. Nobody had an easy upbringing also, and that's probably why they are so resilient.
What role do you think mentorship plays, especially given that, we are at an event where you have leaders such as yourself in the industry, but also you have a lot of young women that are here. What role do you think mentorship plays? And is Latinas in Tech doing more to kind of expand the circle, and be more inclusive? And let us know, what is it that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so mentorship is one of the key factors for the expansion of our community. I mean, for the number of Latinas that are in tech, it'll only grow if we really create more mentors. I believe that for every mentor that we surface, 5 Latinas will be leveled up in a way. The thing is, if you look up, there's almost nobody above. So how many Latina CEOs do you know? The number of VP Latinas is not as big as it should be, directors and so on. In my whole career in tech, I have never, ever had a single Latino, let alone Latina. as a manager or as a peer above me. So somebody to look up and in the same company. The only Latinos that I would have were either under me or they were the people that clean at night or that are serving the food. And that is just not okay, especially in California where the percentage of Latino population is so huge. It just doesn't make any sense. So when you see yourself in a situation, when you see you're in a situation like this, then you realize, okay, wait, then I am the one that is the highest, even though I'm not the CEO. So I am that mentor. So I should reach out to the girls that are under me that can learn from me. And it takes a lot of, it's not easy to realize that. Like we are always by nature humble. So we don't realize that. And we suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. So that I think is one of the most important things. So what we do at Latinas in Tech to surface those mentorships is that we created a Cafecitos channel in our Slack community. So any girl from anywhere in the world can have a full 1 hour meeting with another Latina from Silicon Valley or from anywhere. And they can share their experiences, be each other's mentors or ears. And we do offer those spaces where if you come to our networking events, you will be meeting VPs at Amazon, at Google, at Facebook, and they are all amazing people, and they do care for each other. So that's what we're doing.
I like the cafecitos concept because it's very tied to our community in terms of identity, but also you are bringing those role models such as yourself and others that have made inroads in the community. What are some of the resources that you recommend for people to think about besides joining Latinas in Tech? Are there other resources that you recommend people should be joining, listening to, reading, to kind of develop that skill set? Because I think you mentioned imposter syndrome and feeling like you maybe not belonging at the beginning or giving it a try and seeing how you did and you're here 6 years later. But how can we build that self-esteem, that assertiveness? Because our community, many of us are very humble. Many of us, I remember growing up with the word ambitious being like a bad word. Like you don't want to be ambitious, but in order to succeed here, you have to be ambitious. So how do we get past that? And what resources do you recommend?
Being ambitious is not a bad thing at all. Like you want to know, first you want to know where you want to go and by when and what your first step needs to be. That you have to have that clarity. I recommend 2 books that helped me a lot. One I haven't even finished because it just came out. It's Michelle Obama's book. I'm just like a quarter of the book so far, but you can see how a leader like her grew up and her mentality. That's the mentality that we need to have. Another book, Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. That's another book that is incredibly helpful. About trusting yourself, about not fearing. The fear to failure is probably one of our worst enemies. And another thing is don't play the role of the victim. Why? Because you will be the loser, right? If you get hired in a company, and I've heard this, I feel like they hired me because I'm brown. No, that would never cross my mind. They hired me because I'm awesome. And I would never doubt that. That thought would not cross my mind. And it shouldn't cross the mind of anybody. Maybe your neighbor was hired because of that, but not me. So it's that attitude of, I'm awesome. I can do this. I know my skills. I know I have everything to compete against anybody. So the color of my skin doesn't define me. And I'm not the victim here. And I'm going to show them. And actually, that's Michelle Obama's. I'm going to show them. You think I can't? I'm going to show you.
That's great and that's inspirational. Was there a particular person in your life, either personally or professionally, that kind of helped you get there? Because I know that sometimes, I've been on the mom side too. I have 2 kids. One is 6, the other one is 9. And, trying to balance your life, the work life, trying to be a mom and trying to be a professional and the best professional that you can be. Were there people that guided you as you were moving back into your profession, and how can others be those champions, or how can others identify those champions?
Yeah, for me, I have 2 people that made me, and they're all male, both. One is my dad. who always inspired me to fly as high as I could. And he said, if you ever fall, I'll be there to help you stand up again. I know. And he always, like, you're not flying high. Like, he wouldn't make me feel like I'm not trying enough, but he's like, fly as high as you can. Like, the sky is the limit. You want Silicon Valley, you should be coding over there. Like, he was always pushing me as far as I could. So when I had nothing but just a couple of suitcases and I moved to the US, I just had a zero fear. And he gave me that. Like, the world, like, my home is not limited to four walls, not to a city or a state. The world is my home and I can go anywhere. And that's what he taught me. So I love it that he's always there when I fail. I fail a lot, but then I recover and he's there to help me, figure out the next step. And the other person is actually my husband, who he says, when you lean in, I lean out. And when you need to travel. Last week I went to Hungary and he stayed with the kids. He's one of the best mom dads that I've ever seen. I know that even he kicks me, he kicks my ass as a dad that like he's in PTA meetings for school and he will take them to their classes. And he himself, he has his own tech job as well. And when he has to travel, I'm the one that stays at home. But we are a team, we're equal, and we're both the providers of the house, and we just make it work. And he is so passionate about my work at Latinas in Tech, and just yesterday at the summit he was helping out with everything he could. So these two men are my everything, my rock, and I'm super thankful that they happened in my life.
You mentioned failure, and for many of us, especially in our culture where it's been ingrained that we need to succeed, that we need to be the first in everything. I remember being the first one in my family to go to college, and I felt so much pressure being the first to graduate from college, being the first to graduate from high school. So all these firsts put a lot of pressure in our community, and failure is not an option for many of us. So how can people get more comfortable with failure? And for those times when you felt like you failed, what has helped you kind of overcome those moments?
I think I personally got very, very good at failing. I failed so many times. I believe that if you try, for example, when you want to be an entrepreneur, I know that 1 out of 10 will succeed. That means that I need to try at least 10 times until I succeed. So for me, every time it doesn't work out, it's just a check mark until I get to what I want. And sometimes it just succeeds at the first try or at the second, or maybe it never does. But I don't get discouraged, because you know what? Failing is not a zero. You learn when you fail. So when you stand up and do it again, you're not going to make the same mistakes. Even venture capitalists know that. When they are looking for a founder and that founder failed once, for example, they know those mistakes are not going to happen again. That's experience that is valuable. And I heard from somebody before, he said, you know what? When I fail, it's actually a perfect opportunity to stand up and see what options you had. Because when you don't fail, you just keep going straight in this one path. But when you actually have to reset your mind and your projects, then you're in the most privileged spot, because you can choose the right path, the right next step. So that's why I see failing as a very good opportunity to succeed next.
Are there certain channels that you follow? Are there certain people that you follow on social media that you think you've learned a lot from? You mentioned the two resources, the books, but are there other influencers that you follow and that you recommend we follow too?
Oh boy, I'm not that big in social media. I'm the one that posts a lot of pictures of her kids on Facebook, but I'm not really into Twitter and Instagram, so I don't follow much. I read the news. I admire Sheryl Sandberg, obviously, Michelle Obama. I'm very lucky to be in Latinas in Tech and be able to follow live all these amazing women. We have a smaller network within Latinas in Tech called Latinas at the Table. And this is like a handful of senior executives, Latinas, and we get together once in a while, and I admire each one of their stories. They've all been in panels in the summits. So I think I follow them a lot. My co-founder Gretel is amazing, and all the people in the board, and then the other boards are incredibly inspirational. So I would say those are the ladies I follow.
Well, finally, the last question for you today, and thank you for taking the time. We were actually at the Wing today, this morning, where Latinas in Tech is hosting an invite-only breakfast, which is amazing. You're bringing together a lot of women here in a very special space because it was designed for women, I think, for women, by women for women. So thank you for introducing us to the Wing. And so you'll hear some people in the background, but what is your next play in terms of, whether it's a personal goal that you want to achieve or a professional goal?
Funny you ask. I'm actually leaving Prezi at the beginning of next year, and I am going to dedicate the next 1 or 2 years to myself. I'm fighting cancer, and I want to focus on my health, on eating right and exercising and, removing a little bit of stress from my life. So I'm going to go on sabbatical, and I'm really, really excited to take that decision. Maybe it won't be 2 years. Maybe I'll go crazy. I'm used to work. I'm not leaving Latinas in Tech, so I'll continue with this project. But I will leave the tech industry for a little bit to make sure that there's more Rocio for the rest of my life.
And thank you for sharing and for bringing that awareness too, and for being courageous to do the self-care. Because you're right, if you don't take care of yourself, it will be harder. And I think it would be a challenge for our community, since we need role models like you, we need fighters, we need advocates like you. And I thank you so much for taking the time to just hang out with me here and do this. And I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Latinx America and on Twitter at America Latinx, or email any questions or ideas to latinxamerica@gmail.com. Gracias y hasta la próxima semana.